Come in.
What kind of stuff do you stream?
Just general Q&A. Hey everybody, going live now. I've got my writing partner Ross here as well. Link in bio or below.
Can I just talk shit about you the whole time if you like?
If you want to. Where's the thing? Where's the console?
Well, the SSL thing is there, so maybe you just want to go window at the top left. And close it. Sorry, you don't have to mute it because I can just turn it down here.
Turn it off, mate. Hey everybody, how are we tonight? I've got a bit of feedback for some reason. Who have we got watching tonight? So, tonight I've got my writing partner, Ross, who you can see there.
Oh, wrong hand. There you go.
So, Ross I do most of my music with, specifically all the kind of disco stuff and everything else. And we were meant to go on live last night, but my internet's been down, so I've had a bit of I live in the back of beyond in Wales, so yes. Here to talk about our writing process, really. And you can ask any questions at any time. Generally, what I do is I just...
Can I ask questions?
Yeah, you can ask questions if you want, yeah. I just chat about the processes and things that I do, and then wait for people to come and ask, which is why we're here. Okay, so basically what happens, and I've spoke about this before, is that I get my projects together ready in advance. So, morning Marcus, hope you're good. So yeah, basically what I do is this. I get a project ready for Ross when he comes with some ideas. And what I'll do, I'll have some samplers, and today we've got a Prophet in there. So with this plugin, so I've got this plugin and I found something that I really like. So just the Arturia. So we've got some basic chords down, which Ross did. We list some references, and yeah, got these chords. Bit 80s, but I quite like it. And we're just using the plugins now. So we've got the Arturia plugin for that. It's work in progress. And then we've got the bass. So this is the bass.
Big old Moog.
Yeah, so that's we've got the Trilian for bass. It sounds really good. So we've got that, and again, what I've spoken about before is choosing things for the position in the mix. We've then also got this Jupiter. What's that doing? Again, it's Arturia. I always use these plugins first, and it's a basic rhythm that goes with it. We don't want to go too melodic with the bits that we've got yet because we want a vocal for over it. And then we've got another synth here, which I like. Ross doesn't like this, but yeah, I love it. So this is the Mini Moog by Mini MONSTA. Who's it by? By G-Force. It's a really good synth.
I like the synth.
Do you?
I do like the synth a lot.
Ross is not really a house person, so when I'm choosing house sounds, I don't like this.
I don't care.
I don't care, yeah, because you know it's. And one of the things we talk about here, Ross, is a lot of people like how do you get your creative process going? And the thing is that it's you as an artist when you work with somebody like Ross, specifically who isn't necessarily into house music. You know, you need to be making decisions yourself because they don't know your people. They don't know the people that are on your dance floor. They don't know the people you're making the music for. You do better than them. Now, they know all the chord structures and everything else, and Ross knows me inside out. But I give him good references. But I know as a DJ that if there's something I won't play or something doesn't feel right for my style, then I don't want it. But I love this sound, so let's have a listen to this sound.
Classic sound. It's a sound I've heard a lot before.
Yeah, it's a classic house tune. It's just a chord, isn't it? Okay, so I'll mess around with this a little bit. So that's the basis of the track. And then we've just tried to put, because Ross is very talented. Oh yeah, so he plays keys, he plays guitar, he plays bass, he plays sax. What else do you play?
Tin whistle.
Tin whistle, yeah. So yeah, so what I do is I get all the sounds ready for him, and then he's here for a couple of days. So we've done 2 tracks today. Ross doesn't get out of bed till 12 o'clock, so he didn't turn up till late. So yeah, basically what I do is I get it so it's all prepared. I know I've got the right sound straight away. Like I said before, there's nothing worse than killing your flow by looking for sounds and looking for samples. And what I've done already is got all the sounds together and got them ready. So I'm prepared, and then tomorrow we've got a couple more tracks to do. And what we'll do is tonight, because like I said, he gets out of bed late, so when I wake up at 5, these will be virtually finished, and then we'll mess around with it. Because, well, let's play the guitar first. Done a bit of guitar. That's one option. This is the other option. I think they're really good.
Oh yeah, as a shank, wasn't it?
That works really well. Plays really well against the Mini MONSTA. See, I really like these guitars, but and they do work with it, and I have to make a decision because it's going a little bit more disco-y with those kind of things, which I like and which I play. But I think I'm feeling it a bit more as like a deep house kind of record. So I'm not sure I'm going to use them, but let's have a listen to them.
Kind of blends in that one. Yeah. I'm not as keen on that one now. I think there might be a better take of that in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's a bit busy as well, but let's try this one. The frequencies are a bit clashy with the synths up top and everything else as well.
The last one you've tried is the last one. Again, it's kind of bringing it out of that genre a bit, isn't it? It's taking it more towards the funky, Michael Jackson style.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it works. I like it, but you know, I'll always get him to do loads of things. So we'll put loads of instruments in here now. We'll do some strings, and we'll layer it, and then I'll arrange it. So in the morning when he wakes up, we can have another listen to it and see if there's anything else that we can do to the arrangement. Maybe do like a middle eighth or a chord change or whatever. I quite fancy doing a chord change actually for some reason.
On this one?
Yeah. And so that's the guitar. Let's have a listen to everything. I quite like that guitar in there, but what I might do is, again, I want to go deep house with it, so I might find something like an effect. Yes, Tantra. Just try.
What affects a deep house?
Well, there's no effects, but I'm just seeing if I can make it sound a bit weird with something like this, like which is Tantra 2 on Plugin Alliance. Let's make it a bit.
That's cool.
And you'll notice that I'm doing this in the mix because you need to see how it sounds in the mix. You know, if I mute like kind of all the synths.
Quite a good part to test that synth out, that plugin out, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like with a consistent.
It's quite good.
You hear what it does in every different beat.
Yeah. So people can't hear you, so you have to
I've got to
talk
speak up.
into it. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just mess around with that and see if I can get something out of it. It sounds quite good, but is it right for the genre? That's the question.
Surprised you consider it deep house because it's quite like I imagine deep house to be quite the bass be like repetitive, like one bar loop.
No,
and not as like melodic.
No,
you know what I mean?
no. Deep house is more musical, like almost garagey.
Right.
Well, it depends. So deep house back in the day was like
maybe I'm thinking of deep tech house.
Yeah, you are thinking. Yeah.
There we go. That's cool.
Hey Bobby, would I call this French house? No, I'd call it deep house, to be honest with you. So, hi Bobby, good evening. Any questions, anybody? That's what I'm here for, just to answer any production. Ross is here, he can ask you any questions.
If you want to ask me how many sharps are in the key of A.
So that's how I get my music together. And what we'll do is we'll mess around with a few other instruments now, because we've got the kind of all the frequencies there. We've got the kick and the bass, and then we've got the mini MONSTA. We've got the pads which aren't in all the time, and then there's probably not much space for anything else, you know, because don't forget we're going to put a vocal in there, maybe some other kind of drums. I think is what's going to work with this.
Not noticed the rim that I put.
Yeah, I did.
So you liked it then? You passed the test.
Okay, so this is what I do. It's exactly how we make our records every single time, isn't it? So we'll get this and we'll get it sounding as close as possible using plugins. Okay, we'll get as much together tonight, and then I'll go to bed. Ross probably have a play around or, you know, work on some stuff. But I'll arrange it and I'll create a bit of an arrangement how I feel it's going to work, ready for a vocalist. But then what we'll do is this. We'll go analog. So we'll use the S2400 for the drums, get a rhythm going. the Prophet. We'll probably use that instead of that. We've got the Moog, and then we'll mess around with the acid. So the acid, and we'll probably put an analog kick in there just because I want to use it. So then what we'll do is we'll get it sounding analog, and only if it sounds better. We won't necessarily use it if it doesn't sound better. So yes, that's how we make the music, and then I'll arrange it, and then we'll have a look at it tomorrow morning, and then we will send it off for a vocalist. Try and get someone to sing on it. So that's my production process. Get the vocals on, and then we'll get Ross back in and see if we can do any questions and answers with the vocals, with music and all that kind of stuff. So quite regular. We'll change the music once the vocal's on, depending on how good the vocal is. Bobby Hoskins has asked, what's your thoughts on clipping? Recently seen a Dee Ramirez seminar about it. I'd never really heard of it. Is it a path to destruction? It can be, if you don't know what you're doing. I've done a course on clipping, and part of my one-to-one mentorship is all about clipping. So my thoughts on clipping are this: it can be a very helpful tool. You know, soft clipping like saturation, so you can reduce the dynamic range, which is why we use it, and we can just slice off the top of it, you know, to stop them peaks going into the limiters in each stage. If we do it individually, we get the thought process, we get more headroom on our master bus, so when the limiter hits it, it takes longer before it starts distorting the song that you're using. And I did a full video on this the other day where I did lots of examples, and the problem, I'll do a quick thing now. So like on this rim, for example. So clipping, I use it maybe for a bit of soft clipping, so a bit of saturation in the bottom end. Sometimes it works, but you've got to remember that clipping always adds some kind of distortion. Let me give you an example. So I've got a rim here. So let's just say that was one of the loudest things, and I wanted to clip it before it went to the end. I'll get K-clip up. So if you look at this, I'll just clip it.
Oh, they can't see it. You want to switch over?
Oh. Sorry, this is K-clip, so I'm going to start clipping this. And we're hard clipping. And the thing about clipping is it can take away the transient. We had that, you know, today we had the situation, but it will reduce your dynamic range massively.
We were doing it on a snare, weren't we?
Yeah. So if you listen to this, you might not be able to hear anything, right? It might sound exactly the same, but the key is this. If you go here, minus 20.5, turn it off, minus 18.5. So we've taken off with no apparent difference in the sound, 2 dB, which means we've got 2 dB more of headroom for that sound before it starts hitting the mastering limiter or goes for limiting, and reduces the overall RMS of the track. But it's always better to do it individually. So that's the theory behind it. But what it does is this. Put this in delta mode. This is what it adds. So in that case, that might sound quite good, okay? Because it's kind of transient. It's a bit like a hat. It's in the same position as that. So it might sound good and it might emphasize it a little bit, right? But the problem you've got is this. If you start going on stuff like, let's put this on, for example. So you might think, oh, you know what, I've not really done much there, but let's listen to what you're adding to mixed. That's what you're adding into your mix. And with clippers, like I only use clippers. I might use soft saturation, soft clipping on the kick or something, but I only use clippers if something's, you know, going. The kick's always the loudest thing in the track. Watch the video I did the other day, Bobby. There's a full video on it. The kick's always the loudest thing in our tracks, maybe not the vocal, right? So we use an oscilloscope, okay? And this shows us the levels of everything in the mix.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So there you've just got the kick, but let's just take that off. So I can see now that the clap and the kick together are the loudest things in the mix, okay? So what I really want to be doing is I will probably look at doing something on the kick, but it looks quite looks quite flat. I don't really like clipping the kick, but I will do. And I can see the clap there is really coming over. So that's the bass is on the kick, the clap's on the kick, that's on the kick, some music on the kick. You know, I can see that that really might need some attention, and that's the only thing that I'll do. That's the only thing that I'll really go in and clip, unless I need to, because the limiter's going to hit the kick first, right? And the kick will take no time to distort. And if I can see there, I'll probably, you know, use something else on the bass. But again, you know, there's plenty of headroom between there and the top of the kick. So what I'll do is, because there isn't much, you can see there's not much dynamic range there. Anyway, you've got the kick, you've got the bass, the clap needs looking at, the synths are quite low. You know, the green is the hi-hats. So, sorry, the red's the kick, the yellow's the bass, the purple's the music, the orange, brown is the mid drums, and the green, bright green here is the light drums. You can see it all here on the side. So I'll put this on the bus of each thing with nothing else on the bus, and then you can see where everything else sits in the mix. And for me, like, this is pretty good. I'll probably just look at the clap and use other ways of reducing crest factors, because I know that this track, just by looking at it, it's not going to be one sec. It's not going to. It's going to get loud really quickly, because there's not much. There's the bass and the kick and the clap and even the hats. They're all kind of there really. The only way I can reduce the crest factor is by reducing the kick, reducing the bass a bit more, and I will do it a little bit, but I just don't think there's any need to. So Bobby asked, what does make it a clipper rather than a limiter? So a clipper just flattens the end off, just slices it off if it's hard clipping, and rounds into it if it's soft clipping. So it's not necessarily reducing it's not squashing it, it's just slicing it. That's the thing. And obviously, in the other video I did the other day, I showed that, like, making sure that your audio, all your notes are the right volume and your MIDI is the right volume, and getting all that done before. So I'll always go into my audio. Let's say we record all this in through that. I'll go into the audio, and if there's notes sticking out, as opposed to putting on even a compressor or even a limiter or anything, I'll go into the audio first, I'll go into the MIDI first, I'll go into everything else. So I'm not affecting it as a whole.
The time difference as well. A limiter's got attack and release factor. Does clipper not have attack and release?
No. So
clipper's just like
a clipper just does it, whereas as a limiter and a compressor's over time, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got control over the time response of a limiter.
No. With a clipper, you just have clip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use clippers?
I mean, I use saturation a lot.
Yeah.
Which is kind of really the same thing. Clipper's just like a hard, you know. There's like digital clipping, and I guess some of that clipper that you're using, I guess, is trying to kind of saturate it in a nice way once it hits the ceiling, isn't it?
Well, no. So let's just say we go to the bass.
It did sound pretty digital actually when you played that.
I mean, it was a digital synth. It does sound digital. That's why I don't like to use them. But obviously that was hard clipping. But soft clipping is just like a soft knee. It eases into it. So let's put this on the bass. Let's listen to the difference between hard clipping and soft clipping. So I'm clipping that there quite heavily really, but let's listen to what that's adding. So that's hard clipping. Well, let's listen to soft clipping. I'm going to move it around to soft clipping.
So you're doing a lot more, isn't it? It's letting a lot more of the... Isn't that just the same as having it, is it like 100% soft is like 0% clipping, isn't it?
No.
Seems to be what it's doing though, because it's not doing any clipping there, is it? Isn't it? Can you see where it says smooth with a drop down? Is that not like the different styles?
That's different styles, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not how to do it. So soft clipping is that the delta mode is what it's adding to the mix, right? So
it's weird though that when you put the soften all the way up, it basically just sounds like the dry signal, doesn't it?
Well, it's because it's smoothing into it a little bit more.
Okay.
It's just different. That's more aggressive. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
It's still clipping it. That's just, you just need to drive it more into the soft clipper.
To get anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I go hard.
Go hard or go home.
See, it's really kind of, it sounds digital, I think, with the hard clipper, but that sound sounds good on a snare. Sometimes the hi-hat, if the hi-hat's too loud, or, you know, and soft. They say soft clip from the bottom for the kick and the bass and everything else, and then they say hard clip from the top, the more transient type stuff. But I would never use it like that. I would always go to saturation first of all, unless it was really kind of poking through the mix, and there was a couple of things I really wanted to cut off. But because we're doing a lot of it in synth, soft synths, we can look at that beforehand. But when we use the Moog, yeah, it'll be a bit different. Any more questions for anyone?
When you look for a vocalist, where do you go? Personal friends or somewhere else?
Well, my next record comes out with Rona Ray, who did the track with Prunk. I just messaged her. You know, you message people, you send them a track. If they love the track, they'll do a great vocal for you. Obviously, the track I did with you, Marcus, Night Lab, you know, it was through talking to you on social media, and you had that vocal, so that one came that way. Actually, it was Ross who worked on that track, the one with Kathy Brown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with me.
That was one of the first things we did together, wasn't it? That one, it like quite a funky. That added some guitars and strings and stuff.
Yeah, it was full disco.
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
So, any questions, anyone? We've got 7 people watching. I'm here to answer any questions about music production, the industry, anything like that. A bit of a delay. Just wanted to talk about the music process and how we're making music nowadays. And you know, this is if you're making music and you're not a musician, like I'll do tech house, and the track we did today was that I got Ross to look at when he came first is just like a tech house kind of track. Let's have a quick look at it. Actually, we'll have a listen to it. And it was there virtually. But if you're not a musician, what I do is this. I get Ross in, or another musician, because you've got to be prepared and you've got to know what you want, and that's the key to this. Most people will get a piano player and they don't know what they want. I know what I want straight away, and it's in my head. You know, I kind of, and then I'll work around that. So we all start with a lead and we work around that. So this is a track I've been working on today. There's a lot of parts. Let's have a listen to this. I'll just go through it. stab. So what I did was I had all this virtually ready to go, and then we just had to play around with it, and Ross just added a little something to it here and there. Most of the things were already there, but we chopped up this lead sound. I've had a track going for this for over 15 years. I love this sound, and I just thought today I've got to make like a tech housey, minimal tech, whatever you'd call it, track for my website. So I got this, and then we just chopped it up in these different. So we just chopped it up. We've got two bass lines. We've got one which is this. And then we've got this one, which is just virtually an offbeat. And these aren't necessarily the sounds that I'm going to use, but you know, it's just getting it all together. And again, I'll work on this in the morning. So because it's in C, it doesn't have a lot of bass in it. So we just got up a kick 3, and we just put that in. So we made it longer and had more bass in the kick. So the bass notes in the kick. Instead of putting on like R bass and adding loads of stuff at the bottom, we just figured it sounded better in C, as opposed to, we'd rather have a longer kick than put the bass in G, which still worked, but it was just...
Yeah, you had your bass line originally on G, which was working, but the vocals are kind of centered around C minor, C Phrygian, call it, or something like that. Which was fine, but then we made the bass line busier, didn't we? We made it more jumpy.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work better around C. It felt more in keeping with the vocal and that synth. Then we were playing around with having a sub bass further below it and that bass on top. But then it seemed to work better just having the sub bass provided by the kick, didn't it?
Yeah.
And have that bass jumping around on top. I think we're still filtering a lot of the low end out of that bass line, aren't we?
I don't know yet. This is just rough. I'll work on it in the morning. Like, I'm up at 5 in the morning. I'll have a coffee and I'll be in here. And by the time he gets up, these 2 tracks will be finished. Not be finished, they'll be arranged, and I'll mess around with it and decide.
It'll sound completely different.
Yeah. So that's them. Hey Zambot 3, welcome. I'm here to answer any questions. Please put your questions in the chat and we'll answer them. We're talking tonight, we have been talking about how to get your ideas together in music production. And a lot of people come to me, and I'm primarily mixing records for people as well as mentoring people. So people come to me for me to mix records, and I get them sounding great, but they're just the people that have just tried the best to do it with limited musical knowledge, and it sounds right, but it just doesn't sound amazing, which is why, you know, we are making music. So I always get Ross in to come in to help me out a little bit, but like I said, I'll have most of it ready to go for when he comes here. So and we'll do 5-6 tracks in the next 2 days. So, yeah. For those people who don't know me, who are watching, I do a one-to-one mentorship, which is over 10 weeks, where we look into your productions, and I've got a basic course which has helped hundreds of people based upon working with everyone. Everyone seems to have the same kind of faults. They're finishing records, but they're not finishing records and getting them signed properly. So 90% of the time, I take people back to basics and back to the fundamentals. And we'll go through everything to do with all the skills, but mostly we teach you a mindset. So if you're interested, you can DM me on social media at Jason Hurd Music, or sign up for free courses at my website, subtonemusicacademy.com. I'll put it in the chat. If you sign up there, you can get the free taster plan, and we've got videos of how we made and how Ross and I have made music before, a bit more in detail than this. These are just kind of off the cuff, answering people's questions and taking it from there. So if you're watching, there's no question too silly. That's what we're here for. Everybody's on a journey. We're at different stages, and yeah. So any questions before we move forward a little bit?
Got another question there. Do you always start in session mode? I really should start using it more, but I find I lose track quicker. Always used to arrange mode coming from Logic.
Okay, well, there's
it's kind of the way to do it in Ableton, isn't it?
Yeah,
it makes more sense.
Yeah, it is. He's Logic. There's two main reasons why Ableton is better than Logic. Okay, and there's two reasons. Number one is the session view like this, working in clips, so you can just mess around with it and do it all. And I've got the push here, so I can use that, and that works really well with it. It's great for getting ideas. So if you see here, this is just getting ideas together, and I can flip between them all, and I can color them dead easy, and it makes me not just have one version of a clip. So I'll always try and do like the main version, a second version, and a stripped back version. Same with the bass line, same with the sounds. And with this vocal here, we've done the same, but we've put them onto different channels, so chopped up the vocal and everything else. And I like it because of that. The second reason why I use Ableton over Logic is because of the modulation. You can modulate anything, and just dead easy. They're the two distinctive reasons. For me, the main reasons as well are simpler, and drum rack are just the most easiest things to use. They're easy to pull sounds in. They're easy to swap sounds. Each element in the drum rack is not just ADSR like a lot of drum racks. It's a full sampler in each one. So, and you can it collects all and saves, and all the samples are in your project. You don't need things like Contact or anything like that, because it's got it all. But tomorrow, if we're doing a full disco track, I might use Cubase, because it's just built better for it. We've got vocals and strings, and if I'm working linear, then I'll use Cubase. But if you're from Logic, just use Logic. For me, that's what Ableton's about. Ableton's about the session view, really. That's what would you say?
For loops as well, yeah. Like, I think I love Ableton for this kind of music. I wouldn't necessarily do the kind of music that I'd record in terms of like live studio session recording acoustic guitars and stuff. That doesn't really make sense in Ableton, but this kind of music fully does.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to make music quick, and I think
for music creation, for getting the ideas together, loops and like you can quickly and easily have several ideas and bounce them off each other. And I do like the way that Ableton works in terms of the mixing as well. The only problem is it doesn't have buses.
No, but it does. Well, it does. You have groups.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't have buses, but you create a chain, and I've actually got used to it now. It's like any DAW. Everybody can reach the same in any DAW, but it's just, for me, Ableton's just so easy to get ideas down together. Bringing in loops is dead easy. Chopping up loops is dead easy. Finding stuff. This browser is just, it's just so simple. There's other things that are really good in other DAWs, but every time I go to them, when it comes to starting a track, I miss Ableton. But You know, I like Bitwig as well, but nobody uses Bitwig that I work with, so I use Ableton to keep on top of it. Any questions, anybody, before we wrap up for the evening? Anything about production or the music industry? No? Okay, well, back next week. We are with Graham Farmer on Monday from 5 p.m.
Oh, there you go. I've got another question. Yeah. Another question from Bobby.
How are you chopping up loops in session mode, if you don't mind me asking? Easy.
It is really easy.
So if I've got a loop, let's just say I'm looking in my sample pack. I've got this. Oh. Let's just say that one. Let's just say I want that, and I like it, but I don't like. No, let's go. Let's say I've got that. I like it, but I want a different pattern. Go File, right click, slice to new MIDI track. Okay, go slice to new MIDI track. Transients, default. You can change to all these different kinds, but I generally stick to it. Now be nice and clean, and then press OK. Okay, and then this comes up here, and it's all in here, so I can mess around with the sounds. And I'll do it that way. Or if I've got the same loop and I just want a part of the loop, I'll just drag it in like that, and then just mess around with it, like kind of. If that was all I wanted to do, that's what I'd do. You know, and if I didn't want this, the clap, I just wanted that first bit, I really liked it, I'd just do that. That's how I'd do it, you know, or mess up. It's so easy in Ableton just to. You know, it's just easy to do it that way for the loops. And generally what I'll do is I'll listen to loops. I'll always have like one kind of tambourine or shaker, one loop in there in full, but I might take the kick out. And it's depending what I want from it. If we're individual sounds, I'll just do what I've done there. And it generally works perfect all the time. And don't forget, if it doesn't work perfect, you can go into the sampler here, yeah, and go to individual slice and just make it longer or shorter, you know, however you want to do it, fade it out. So there's usually a lot of clips and stuff in it, so I just go into one-shot mode and fade out and listen to it and everything else. Dead simple. Did that help, Bobby? So if you've liked it tonight, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We're going to be back next week. I might do more. We've got quite a few people watching and a few people coming back. But the problem you've got is no one's asking me. We're not getting enough questions. So I'm going to have to pre-plan and make some topics to do these on, because the clipping one went down really well. Bobby said, thank you, the slice-to-MIDI thing is powerful. Yeah, it's really good, but you've got to be, it is always glitchy, so you've got to go in as well and cut them down, I think.
There is a version of that in Logic as well, where you create a sampler out of an audio file.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. It's not as easy as that, is it?
It's pretty easy. It's just different, isn't it?
Yeah. If you have a track, Night Lab says, if you have a track that's sitting around for whatever reason, how long should you wait till you should go back excuse me, in and update the sound It's not a silly question. The thing is, at Night Lab, is that if you've got a track there and you've mailed it out and nobody's interested, all right, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not right, because, you know, some of my biggest records people didn't want at first. It's get a group of people around you who can give you solid advice, who are not your partners, not your friends, because we all think that our tracks are brilliant personally. Find people who are going to play that music and get some solid advice off them, which is what I do when I mentor people. And I, as you know, a lot of the time, the biggest problems I see people have that come to me is they're making music and they love it, but they don't take into consideration who the people are that are going to play it, right? And because that person likes that record, they think that everybody else will like that record, and it's just not true at all. You've got to understand your client base. You've got to understand your demographic and your community and the people that are playing your music and what you can and what you cannot get away with. And that's the thing. And you've got to know where it's going to be played and who's going to play it. And if you've got a tech house track with a funky house vocal, most tech house people aren't going to play it, and most funky vocal people aren't going to play it. And if you've got a techno track with a real bass line, you know, the people who like real bass aren't going to play because it's too hard, and the techno people aren't going to play because it's not a real bass line. So you've got to make sure that your record is right for the genre and what you're going for. And just do what I do, put it out in your own record. So, I mean, I do sign virtually every single record that I send out, but that's because I know where I'm going for. Like this record here, I know what I'm going for with it. I know what I'm looking for. I know the demographic that I want to hit with it, and the more deep house kind of people. And not this one, the one before. This is a club banger. You know, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to mess around with it, and I'm going to aim for something like, you know, Hot Creations or any of them labels. Any of, like, it's techy, but it's also, you know, bit techno, I guess. I mean, the bass, I'm not too mad on the top bass line at the moment, but I know where this is going. You know, it is cool. I like the synth sound. It's really good. It's quite housey. It's almost in between house and tech, and there is quite a lot of labels that are going for that. So I know there's not one sound in there that I think right now that is like, oh no, that's not, people aren't going to play this. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that it's that kind of track. It's a track that I can see all the elements. Don't forget, this is just day one. You know, all we're doing is getting ideas down together on this track. But I think personally the lead sound's a killer sound, and I think the bass line works and the drums. And I'm going to go really to town. As you can see, I've got so many different elements that are changing. You know, and stabs and fills, and then I've got different vocals and other stabs and bit of white noise here, and no, that's just what we've done, isn't it? And I'll go to town. I'll probably have another 8 tracks of different things that come in once or twice or 3 times in the track, but I'll make sure they're all genre specific. So yeah, that's that. And don't forget, you know, the first thing a lot of labels ask you nowadays is, what's your social media? You know, I want to look at your social media. It's not about the music for a lot of labels, which is a shame. So if you still think it's great, you know, invest in a promo for the record through a promo company and get it out there, and let's see what the DJs say and the people say who are going to play your music. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Zambot. And we'll see you next week. Like I said, if you're interested in one-to-one, hit us up at subtonemusicacademy.com. Thank you. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you. Thank you.